mean, I don't still have feelings for her, but I do in a way. It's like this thing that's inside of me, and it's always just sort of sitting there, waiting around. And sometimes I'll see something, or I'll smell something, and it makes me think of her, even though I don't want to. I really like CJ, she's amazing. But is it fair for me to go out with her if I still think about Margaret sometimes?
Mordecai?
Come on now, dog. Come on. Mordecai. He was half the face of Regular's show, and as a kid, he was one of my favorite characters to watch. He was funny, witty, and pretty reliable when you needed him to be. He was everything you could ask for in a main character. Well, almost everything. Through a good chunk of Regular's show, a lot of time was given to Mordecai and his many failed attempts at dating Margaret. At the young, dumb age of 12, I was able to turn a blind eye to the many things that love would lead Mordecai to do in the show. But as I look back on it now, I start to realize that Mordecai was not only a simp, but also a very low self-esteem, unconfident, and toxic man to those around him when it came to the woman he wanted to be with. And in reality, we weren't given a role model or someone you should look up to, but instead somebody you should strive to be nothing like. At least when it came to your love life. Now you might ask me, what spurred this video for me? Well, I recently came across some Mordecai simp compilation videos, and as I was watching the clips, a flood of memories of Mordecai making mistake after mistake with not only Margaret, but CJ as well just came back to me. And even back then, young me knew, Mordecai, you was messing up a lot. But let's rewind a little. From the beginning of the show, Mordecai and Margaret's relationship was more of like a high schooler trying to be with his crush. He was very awkward and scared, and one of the main problems he faced early on in the show was his fear of rejection. And this is a normal fear to have in high school, even a little bit into college. But learning to overcome that fear will not only save you a lot of time and headaches, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. But the problem with Mordecai comes when he prolongs the fear for so long that because of it, he begins to feel as though he has a right to be with Margaret, which in turn makes jealousy much easier to come by. And there are many moments I vividly remember of Margaret being out with just like any guy at all, and you could visibly see Mordecai get frustrated. And he does this when he has no claim to her and she has never promised him anything of a relationship. This even takes him so far that at one point, he kills Rigby. Was Rigby a little bit in the wrong there? Yeah, but I don't think he needed to die over it. And there are many times that he brushes off those that are close to him just to go and chase after Margaret. He becomes so attached, he's willing to put himself in situations he wouldn't normally find himself in, and playing up a fake persona specifically to either impress her or show himself off as a cool person she should be with. But after this is when we get into the more devastating problem. Because later on in the show, they do end up actually being together for a short time, but shocker to no one, they break up. Mordecai of course gets into a slump after this, but I actually want to talk about what happens after. I want to focus on his inability to get over Margaret. Watching Mordecai completely ruin his relationship with CJ was one of the most infuriating things I ever had to watch as a kid. As not only could he not recognize that CJ was a much better fit for him, but he also couldn't see that Margaret became a very problematic and toxic figure in his life much later in the show. Like bro, this was possibly the perfect thing for you, and yet you went with a girl that only showed you interest after you moved on. And it felt like we got sucked into this cycle because Mordecai could not let the past go, and he even admits this himself. And sadly, he never gets over Margaret. He even cheats on CJ, kissing Margaret at a Christmas party of all places. And he actually gets away with seeing Margaret a lot behind CJ's back. It's actually crazy the things he does. It was clear that Mordecai was someone who couldn't handle his emotions and even seemed unable to mature. While somebody like his co-partner Rigby grew out of his old ways, Mordecai found himself in the same situation again and again, clinging to something that everyone knew wouldn't work. It's understandable to be hung up on somebody, but getting into a relationship with another woman and going behind her back and doing all these things was pretty scumbag of a move. And being blinded by love and not being able to see all the problematic ways Margaret affected him just showed the mind state that Mordecai was in. He was literally acting like he was still in high school, which would see him end up with nobody as he burned every bridge with every woman he met during the show. And we would only see Mordecai mature through like a montage of him in like his 30s compared to Rigby, who we saw mature while the show was running. So remember kids, if a redheaded bird with some peach pulls up on you, don't be a simp and just turn the other way.